and welcome to Healthy for Life Online. This is week 5. Look at those delicious veggies right there. I aspire to grow vegetables like that. I just over the weekend purchased a couple of feijoa trees, so I'm super excited about that. And some edible flowers as well, because my dog happened to dig up my spinach plants, the little babies. So I thought, well, hopefully he won't dig up flowers because, they're just too pretty. So, yeah, I'm excited about growing fruits and veggies in my own garden, little by little, building up something like this. Because I think if you can grow something fresh and eat it freshly cut, then it's live as well. It's still got all that life force energy, and it's just beautiful to have going into your body. So, right, let's have a look. See, week 5, fats and fiber. So, fats and fiber are not something that is talked about much. Certainly, fiber isn't really. And when it comes to fats, I think commonly out there, fats are seen as bad, basically. Fats make you fat and all of that. And I'm here to tell you that the opposite is true. So, fats actually help you lose fat. And the reason being, I mean, there's a lot of detail in there as to why, but the basic premise is that we need fats for a reason, which is why foods come with fat in them. Your proteins often are accompanied by fat. For example, eggs, protein on the outside, fats and nutrition on the inside. Fish, lean meats, and so on. Nuts, seeds. They go like this, side by side. Um, and the fats that we're gonna talk about all 4 main kinds of fats tonight, and also which foods you can get them from, and which ones you need to consume and which ones you need to avoid. So there is definitely good fat versus bad fat, and I really love talking about this because one of my favorite things in the world is peanut butter on apple or on anything actually. Nut butter. Since I was a little tyke, I was growing up with peanut butter on everything, like sandwiches where the peanut butter was thicker than the bread. So even my dog likes to eat little almonds with me. So, I figure, well, the more seeds and nuts and good fat source. Get rid of the names. We're going to go delve a little deeper into what each area is. So, unsaturated fats. You have 2 kinds of unsaturated. You have polyunsaturated and monounsaturated. These have a minimal effect on elevating blood cholesterol levels. And the thing is about cholesterol, there's a lot of talk about, eating, if you eat high fatty foods and you've got high cholesterol, and therefore you should avoid fat, which is why there's these low fat diets and things, or some of them are actually high fat diet, low carb, and all these sorts of things. But actually, if you have the right kind of fats, it doesn't matter so much if you have high cholesterol. It's really about the ratio of good to bad cholesterol. So your high density lipoproteins, your HDL, is considered the good, and your LDL, the low density, is considered the bad. But if the ratio is in a good ratio, it's not too extreme, and also the cholesterol flows through the arteries as opposed to sticking to the walls and clogging it up, then it doesn't really matter what the number really. It's not such a big deal. It's how your arteries flow, allow the cholesterol to flow. So clogged arteries obviously equals illness and blockages, and that can cause all sorts of things. I mean, we're talking, heart disease and um, all sorts of angina, blocked arterial walls, and all sorts of things. So if the blood isn't flowing, if things aren't flowing, then that's when it becomes a problem. The thing I think, really gets me about the whole cholesterol thing is that marketers will promote say, a margarine, which is completely made of junk, because it's cholesterol lowering, and the studies will show that indeed it does lower cholesterol. But that's not really the point, because you're eating something that's a non-food that doesn't break down, it's not biodegradable, and therefore the body can't really process it. Whereas if you could have even simply butter, I mean, I say to people, look, if you're going to choose, if you don't want to have, say, coconut oil or olive oil or something else, and you need, something on your toast or something on your button mushrooms with garlic and parsley, then butter, pure butter, a little bit, not too much, is a better idea than going for the margarine, especially for children as well. I don't recommend it. So steer clear of the margarine. Um, Anyways, I've jumped ahead because we're talking about unsaturated fats. Polyunsaturated, monounsaturated. So these are your omega-6s and omega-3s. So your polys are your omega-3s and your monos are your omega-6s. And this is, it's still high energy. There's still a lot of calories in it. I wouldn't say go out and eat, 400 grams of almonds or walnuts or whatever, but 30 grams or, even 50 grams in a day is totally cool. It's still fat, but again, good fat. Unsaturated fats are from plant sources and tend to be liquid at room temperature. So obviously your peanuts are not liquid, but if you think of, say, olive oil versus coconut. So olive oil is liquid in its bottle, and coconut oil is not. It's solid, but it will easily, so if you put it in your hand, it will easily melt. Um, Rancid. You'll see, say, 20 different oils, and they'll say this has got a high smoke point or a low smoke point. This one's good for barbecuing, such and such. So the high smoke point are the ones that you can have at high temperatures without it affecting the quality of the oil. If you have, say, an olive oil, if you've ever taken olive oil or even butter and you've put it in a really hot pan and it's smoked and it kind of smells, but carcinogenic, and it tastes horrible, that's where a fat has turned into a trans fat and therefore is deadly. If you have one that is, say, coconut oil, and you put that in a pan, or rice bran oil, and it's on a hot pan, it doesn't tend to smoke up like that, and that means it's got a high smoke point. It can tolerate, really, really high temperatures, good for barbecuing and so on, without going rancid. So do read the bottles and look at um, what they are. A really awesome polyunsaturated fat is flaxseed oil, or linseeds here in New Zealand, often known as linseed. So linseed, flaxseed, you do not heat it ever. It's in a black bottle, and it's normally kept in the fridge, and it won't last very long once opened, maybe 5 weeks or so. And that is a super amazing source of omega-3s, especially for vegans who don't really want to have a fish oil. But again, don't heat it. Don't heat it ever, because it will go rancid. And again, that's taken something really good and nutritious and turned it into something evil, evil for the body. Saturated fat. So this is things that you'll typically find in animal fats. So your meat, all your meat, your eggs and dairy products and all that sort of stuff as well. Chicken. In fish, you will find a bit of both, but really good source of omega-3s. If you've got, say, salmon, tuna, mackerel, these sorts of oily fishes, really, really good source. And tropical oils. So tropical oils are palm oil and coconut oil. Again, the body needs a certain amount of saturated fat in the body, but not the amounts that we're eating currently. I mean, there's a lot of saturated fat in the world of food, not least from fatty meats, bacon and sausages and those sorts of ground beef that's all tuned up with its fat and so on, but also just the way in which they're cooked now. It's not necessarily prepared in a good way. And also you'll find fats, saturated fats and things in a lot of those store-bought items, lots of the baked goods and cookies and so on. But a little bit from plant sources, brilliant. So coconut, I mean, I eat a lot of coconut, just coconut everything, coconut meat, coconut oil, coconut cream or milk, and that's a really great way to get some good sources of saturated fat. Because I don't eat meat, and I very rarely eat fish now. I used to eat a lot more, but only very occasionally will I have a piece of fish. So most of my fat sources come from nuts, seeds, um, and LSA. So LSA is linseed, sunflower seed, and almonds ground up. That's really good. I put that on my fruit in the morning. And coconut everything, or eggs. So I get some saturated fat there as well. And honestly, it's brilliant because this is fats that my body can process really easily, and I'm less likely to get trans fat in my diet. So moving on to trans fats, then these are the chemical produced deadly fats. I say deadly because these are the ones that will actually clog your arteries. Things like margarine, shortening, those kind of cremeltas and such. Anything that's packaged and shiny, those muffins that come in a little packet and they're kind of shiny and they stay that way for days and days and days. They've got preservatives to stay that way, but also just filled with trans fatty acids, so not really good. So trans fatty acids occur during the chemical process called hydrogenation. So this is where a mostly unsaturated fat, which is your polys and your monos, is hydrogenated to make it more saturated and thus more solid at room temperature. Again, this is, a process of preserving and making things last longer. Margarine and shortening are examples, which is why margarine, I mean, I think they've done studies where margarine is sat in like a hot water cupboard for years and has no growth, no molds, no nothing on it, which, I mean, imagine putting that in your body. It's pretty mean to the arteries. Um, Partially hydrogenated vegetable oils found in most pastries, biscuits, cakes, and other processed and packaged foods. Not so much common in New Zealand, but definitely in the US is something called, actually, I think they even write on their labels, partially hydrogenated vegetable oils. I think they do. So not only do they have high fructose corn syrup, great, that deadly thing, but a lot of hydrogenated vegetable oils or partially hydrogenated in even like I saw a bar of chocolate that had that. Whereas in New Zealand, for example, you look at a Whittaker's chocolate, I won't have that in there. They use really good sources for all of their ingredients, organic and so on. And so it's kind of like if you're going to have something as a treat like that, make sure it's still got decent ingredients, because it's not harmful and the body can process them. I want you to understand the difference between partially hydrogenated and fully hydrogenated. So fully hydrogenated is taking the unsaturated fat all the way through the process, so it becomes a saturated fat and therefore is still processed easily by the body. If it's partially hydrogenated, it turns to a trans fat because it's not gone through that process all the way. Obviously, it's still a chemical process and therefore I don't recommend it. But if it's fully hydrogenated, then at least your body can process it. If something is fully hydrogenated, it would say on the label because then it's stating that it is safe to eat. Um, I've myself never seen that. So, if it has partially hydrogenated, rehydrogenated, anything like that on the label, I just don't even bother going in to, yeah, it's just not worth it. Trans fats are the deadly, avoid at all costs fats and tend to have more of an effect on elevating blood cholesterol levels, especially LDL, which is the low density lipoproteins, i.e., the bad fats, bad cholesterol rather, compared to unsaturated. So, just looking at this list here, polyunsaturated. So, these are the ones where, in the moment in the Western world, we have probably a poly to mono ratio of about 1 to 50. So not enough omega-6s, definitely heaps, sorry, omega-3s and definitely heaps of omega-6. So if you can eat more of these things, these polyunsaturated, you're getting more omega-3s in your diet. Walnuts, brilliant. Chia seeds, super amazing. Chia seeds have a really, really high amount of omega-3 fats in each seed, one of the highest of all the seeds. Granted, they're like micro, so you've got to have quite a few, but really good to sprinkle on salads or in smoothies and so on. And they have that gelatinous, once wet, they go a little bit gelatinous, and so are really easily digested as well. So yeah, really, really good to put in if you're having, say, a fruit salad, for example, then it kind of goes a little bit jelly and just adds something extra in texture. Flax seeds, flaxseed oil. So these are AKA linseeds, which is what you'll find in LSA. Sunflower seeds, soybean oil, soybeans, tofu, pecans, hazelnuts, fish, and these other oils as well. Be mindful again, sunflower oil, a lot of eateries will cook in sunflower oil, but too high heat, like deep fried, for example, and that's just ruining a really perfectly good oil. The other thing as well is in terms of the fish, as I said, tuna, mackerel, salmon, that sort of thing. You're better off getting it fresh than canned. You don't get nearly as much from the canning process, but again, still quite good. Monos, so these are your omega-6s, olive oil, olives, avocados, almonds, peanuts, and cashew nuts, among other things. These are really good sources. And saturated fat, again, not all of these are ideal. Coconut oil and coconut are the best. Palm kernel oil, that's in a lot of food, not necessarily easy to find, and also not always super sustainable. So if you're one of the environmental types, then certainly watch where that comes from. Cocoa butter, that's fairly easy to find nowadays. Regular butter, just straight up, again in moderation. And getting down the list, vegetable shortening, avoid it if you can. Hydrogenated fat, avoid it if you can. These things, I mean, lard as well. I don't know many people who cook with lard unless you've got a deep fryer, then that's often the way. Milk and cream, dairy products that have got saturated fat. It's just kind of have it in moderation. If you can predominantly get your saturated fat from coconut, then I think that's the best. If you are heavy on the meat and dairy, then perhaps just consider cutting back a little bit. A friend of mine started making coconut yogurt recently and gave me a couple of jars, and which is awesome because I don't eat dairy products anymore. And it was lovely because it tasted like yogurt, but coconut flavored. So it was just made with coconut cream, some manuka honey to sweeten, and probiotics. So brilliant, really, really tasty, and getting a good source. I mean, I'm getting this source of saturated fat rather than the dairy milk cream source of saturated fat, and much easier for my body to process, and just a much better source because it's plant-based as opposed to animal-based. So things like that are really good ways to change up what you're eating. Again, if there's any questions along the way, I know I'm talking a million miles an hour at the moment, but do ask. So Sherry, is there a brand of butter that is better salted or unsalted just because the kids eat it? As in they eat butter or they prefer salted this is unsalted. I know that Anchor do an unsalted one as well. As far as I know, in a lot of butters, there isn't much salt in them. But if you're trying to avoid it, then yeah. Generally, though, I think in this country, you pretty much, I mean, all the brands just vary in price, but actually, the milk source, the cream source, is from the same place. It's all, pretty much that big monopoly that we have. So there is not a lot of difference. You might see on some, if it's one of those softened or whipped butters, some of them are literally just the butter and salt again. Sorry, the cream and salt. And others are, they have extra things in them, emulsifiers or um, things to make it of a certain consistency. So I would definitely avoid the ones that have added things because you don't need anything. The fewer the ingredients, the better. Absolutely. I understand there's also an a rice bran and an olive oil kind of whipped into a butter-like consistency. I'm not sure. I haven't double checked the ingredients on those, but because I don't really eat them myself. But do have a look again at the ingredients. If it is just the olive oil, and it's just whipped, it's not a chemical processing, then I'm sure that would actually be quite all right as well. It's hard to know with these things nowadays. Making a margarine out of something that's liquid just doesn't really sound good. But yeah, again, if the children eat butter, then butter. It's not butter that kills people. It's the overabundance of trans fats and saturated fats that are from animal sources. So, it's just be about cutting out. When you've got, say, a piece of steak or something like that you would cut the fat off. That's going to help a lot in terms and draining the mince when cooking, that sort of thing. Because then you're draining off all those fats that are unnecessary. Um, yeah, ghee is dairy free as far as I understand. I know that you can actually buy that. I think Rayward Fresh has that. You can buy it. And yeah, a lot of Indian cooking they use ghee. Other people use just clarified butter, which is when you melt the butter, it separates into the milky stuff and the clear stuff, and it's the clear bit at the top. Again, not ideal, but there you go. Could you whip your own olive oil into butter? Do you know what? I reckon with, excuse me, with a really good mixer, you probably could, um, like a Thermomix or something like that. Might have to Google that and see, actually. Might have to Google that. My friend Google would definitely let me know. Thanks for the question. All right. Top 12 omega-3 foods. Chia seeds, as I said, 8 grams per 25 grams. So a quarter of a cup of chia seeds is going to give you quite a good amount. Flax seeds, slightly under, walnuts, salmon, all the way down to kidney beans and squash. See, this is something interesting, right? Kidney beans are actually quite high in omega-3s in comparison to all the other beans out there. And I just think that's awesome that you can get fats, carbohydrates, fiber, and protein in one little bean. Isn't that awesome? I love nature. Just blows my mind. So take these foods, have them in your week as much as you can, in terms of if you were to increase, and just swap things out. The other thing is, and I think this almost goes without saying these days, is to have a supplement. Have a fish oil or have a flaxseed oil, because honestly, it's quite challenging to get the amount of omega-3s up in our diet. And as I said, 10% of the brain is omega-3 fats. And if we can improve the amount of omega-3s we have, we're going to notice a big difference in memory improvement, concentration. Even in children, you'll notice if you give an abundance of omega-3s to children, honestly, it's like they become just not so erratic, they're quite calm, focused, concentrated, they're able to see clearly, and I just think it's because we've skewed tests for heavy metals, for impurities, for all of these, things to make sure it is of the highest purity and potency and just goodness, and therefore safe for children, adults, pregnant women, all sorts. Doesn't really matter. It's really, really safe. Whereas be mindful out in the marketplace what you're buying and using. When I first started taking a fish oil myself, I actually, it was the first time I'd started. I didn't really know where to look. Started taking a supplement, and fish oil being the first one, I just went to the local health store and I bought one of those giant buckets of, it was like $36 for 1,000 or something. And I put a bunch of them in the freezer and they all froze like little bullets. And I thought, well, that's not really ideal, is it? Because it's not the oil that's freezing, it's the impurities within the oil. So maybe just test yours out before you consume them. Another thing is as well is if you're not if you're not really into taking a fish oil, then again, flaxseed is not as high, but good. I know there's also a lot of talk about krill oil being better than just regular fish oil. That may or may not be true. The thing is that there has not been a long enough study to test the benefits, whereas with fish oil, there's been many, many, many years, decades of testing, and therefore we know it's very safe if you get a really good quality one, and certainly very beneficial for the body. And again, with the USANA ones, I know that one in the morning, one at night is the daily dose, is in the bare minimum daily dose, and you can actually take 20 of them a day. So that's like super adding fuel to your brain power. I think it's amazing that we can take that many, but it also just shows us how depleted our foods are, and certainly how out of balance we are in terms of omega 3s versus omega 6 and omega 9s in our food. So how about that? All right, moving on to fiber now. So there's quite a lot of info in here about fiber. What I'd like is for you guys to be able to read through yourselves as well, but I'm going to go through just a once off. You might not absorb all of this now, but fiber really is something that is lacking in food again because of the high processing of foods. So, for example, have you heard of fiber white bread? Fiber white is a bread made here in New Zealand that is white bread that's had fiber added back into it because they've removed so much of the fiber. And I mean, seriously, we've got to remove it from nature and then add it back in. I just think there's something very wrong with this picture. In foods like fruits, vegetables, actually, where's this image again? Fruits, vegetables, and grains, and herbs, and the skins of things, and the roughage, that's even seeds and so on. You're getting fiber. It's a natural part. Beans as well. It's a natural part of nature to have fiber and to have different forms of fiber, so soluble and insoluble. Um, and what's the problem is that nowadays people aren't balancing their meals. There is no balance. There is no someone's maybe going for a workout and they'll have a protein shake. And the question I always ask is, have you increased your fiber? Because if you increase protein, you're going to need fiber to help push it through. There's nothing worse than being constipated because you've upped your protein and you haven't upped your fiber. Again, balancing out, making sure there are fats and carbohydrates as well. which is why I love the NutriMeals so much, because they are balanced perfectly, including all four of those things. So when people say, well, how do I make a smoothie? I always talk about having some fruits, some fibrous fruits, some coconut water or water rather than the milk, having some good fats rather than dairy, so having some nuts or some nut butters or seeds or something, or even fish oil or flaxseed oil. And if they want a protein powder, then put in a whey protein isolate or a soy or a pea and potato protein, or just chuck a NutriMeal in and then add a bit of extra fruit or fiber if you need it. Really, which is why I put all that information about smoothies in the recipe book, because yeah, just fruit is just really like juice, and therefore a lot of sugar and not much else. Um, I also recommend, fibers. People ask me about juicing quite a bit and whether that's good and if I should add the pulp back in and so on. Um, you can you can do that. You can use the pulp in other things. You are removing a good chunk of fiber, but you do also have some still remain. And it's when you're juicing, it's more about getting in more vegetables. It would be very difficult to eat the number of vegetables you were juicing in a day, anyways, if you were having a high juice diet. I do recommend eating your fruit and juicing your vegetables so that you're getting more veggies in and more antioxidants and things and colors and so on, and not so much sugar. So, maybe add an apple or an orange, excuse me, one piece of fruit to the juice to make it a little sweeter, but don't have all fruits and barely any vegetables, because then you really are stripping the fiber, which helps to slow digestion again and keep it low GI as well. So yeah, just a few tips in there about juicing and maintaining a bit of fiber. So let's jump in. So fiber typically is a bare bones sort of thing, is it's to add bulk to your stool. So someone who's got runny number twos either have not got enough fiber, do not have enough protein, do not, don't have balance going on, or um, almost maybe too much, as well. Having too much can affect that. But I don't know anyone that really eats too much fiber. I've never calculated someone's fiber intake for the day and gone, wow, you eat too much fiber. Never happened in all the years I've been doing this. So you want to make sure that you've got soluble and insoluble fiber. So if you imagine it, like insoluble fiber goes through almost unchanged. Like if you were to eat, say, flax seeds with the like whole with the skin on before it's been ground, then the seed is the same at the other end. It literally, it's kind of like cleansing. It helps to it's kind of the roughage stuff. The soluble fiber goes gelatinous and can pass through, and that kind of takes whatever it needs to take with it. So yeah, we do need both, and also from good sources as well. So preferably natural as it is, rather than um, a powder that's added in. But then also that is available for people who don't get enough. Um, Again, like I said, the NutriMeals do have insoluble and soluble fiber added to them as well, so that people can make sure they're getting the balance. Right, what else do we have here? Constipation. I have met someone who has not had bowel movements for several weeks, and just ask yourself, how many meals do you have in a week, and how many of those meals are staying inside? A lot of people who have really heavy bloaty bellies, like quite distended and feel heavy, um, a lot of them will have intestinal issues, digestive problems. And if you're not excreting, if you're not eliminating those meals and whatever's in there, then I mean, it can lead to all sorts of pain and discomfort, um, gas as well, which is really, when foods are fermenting, just a whole host of things. There is a massive, massive issue in this country with bowel cancer. And bowel cancer, I don't know why it's not talked about in terms of healing more, but that's really because people aren't digesting their food well. Things are remaining in there. Also, parasites. Probably three-quarters of the country have parasites in their gut, and that's not pleasant either. So doing a herbal cleanse would be highly recommended. When I had leaky gut syndrome, I had a parasite. I also had no villi left. So the villi, which absorb the nutrients in my intestinal walls, were all flat. They're supposed to be like this. They were like flat. So I couldn't absorb any nutrients, which made just eating in general was not pleasant. Um, which is weird because as much as I love food and I was always a foodie and a chef and things, it was not fun eating because of the pain afterwards, really. But a way to improve that was I did take the Nutri-Meals, so I had the extra fiber in the day. I had vegetable broth and things as well, and a high, high, high dosage of probiotic. Now, the probiotic, once I've taken the parasitic cleanse, the probiotic was to heal my villi so that I could absorb the nutrients, and again, so that in future I'd have that good gut flora. You'll notice now a lot of yogurts are reinforced with probiotics, and these yogurty drinks that will assist people to improve the amount of probiotics in their gut. And if you consider that if you have a cup of coffee or something high sugar, you're already killing off that good gut flora. So it doesn't mean that I take one probiotic and that's it, I'm done. No, it is something you need to be taking every day or every other day at minimum so that you continually are replenishing the good gut flora, because once um, the balance is out of kilter again and it's overrun by bad bacteria, then that could easily turn into a candida virus or something like that, and that's just not cool. So what else? I'll let you read into this a little more. If you are someone who has um has questions or has a personal issue with cholesterol or fiber, foods that aren't quite digested, then do have a word with me or with your doctor or with a holistic nutrition practitioner, because really that's not normal. It's very, very, very common, but completely abnormal. Um, Having had something like that myself, I can tell you that now being able to digest food and previously not being able to, it's really so much more helpful now. And I can, my trigger foods, dairy is probably the biggest trigger food for me. Um, and I could bloat out and look 7 months pregnant, and it's just not normal, right? That's my body telling me, don't eat this thing, don't eat it. So become really aware of what you consume, and that's why these food journals are so important, because as you note down what you're eating, you can then start to relate, well, when I ate that, I felt energy, I felt alive. When I ate that, I felt lethargic, I felt tired, I had a sore stomach, I was bloating, or whatever. You know, you really get to know the foods that work for you and the ones that don't. Um, just to your immunity is created there, most of it. So many good hormones, and if your gut health is poor, then please expect that you will have poor health elsewhere. So it really needs to be in good health, and I do recommend the probiotic, and I do recommend increasing the fiber intake in your day, and just being more kind to what goes in there, because what happens in your gut is really going to affect the way that the rest of your health is over time. Right, we'll move on to here. Yes, just this bit I wanted to highlight. So you've got 35 grams highlighted there, 50 grams. So 35 grams is minimum and 50 is pretty good. So this is fiber per day. So what I'd like you to do is, ding, 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 looking at these sample food charts, super high fiber, I've got also good levels of fiber and average levels. So some sample foods. What I'd like you to do is just go through your journal and put in how much fiber you're getting in a day. So you should now know after this how much protein you're getting, how many good carbs you're getting in terms of not necessarily grams, but are you getting low glycemic, medium, or high? And also, are you getting any fats? And now, are you getting any fiber? And how much fiber are you getting? So, if you're taking the fiber G, then or you're having a Nutri-Meal, then you'll already have 12 grams of fiber in that meal. Lentils, beans, you've got more grains here as well. Chickpeas, split peas, blackberries, surprisingly high in fiber. Good fiber. All these sorts of good things that we've talked about as well. Steel cut oats. So steel cut oats are before they're rolled, so very, very low GI in comparison to quick oats and so on, but also really good source of fiber. And understand that anything over 3 grams of fiber is considered high. So Metamucil, for example, which is that supplement, is only 3 grams or 2 grams, whereas a serving of fiber G is 12 grams for the same amount. So again, understand and read your labels to know what you're getting. Quinoa, really, really good source of protein and amino acids, and this one, 4 grams of fiber, again, quite high. Half a cup of spinach, quite high in fiber too. So, even an apple, really good. So go through and have a look. The ones that are average, so you can even imagine banana not very fibrous, corn, carrots, slightly less and less. Broccoli, really, really good source of nutrients, low fiber. Tomatoes, these sort of things are all around 1 gram. So if you're wanting to know if there's something not on your list, just quick Google search, you'll get it come up in a minute. Even if you looked at nutrientdata.com, so nutrientdata.com has fiber content, glycemic index and load for the foods, all sorts of nutrient breakdowns. It's a really, really good one. So to say that again, nutrientdata.com, really, really good site. Other than this, if we just go to your journal, so now you should be able to identify time you wake up and go to bed, when you first eat and throughout the day, when you're taking your vitamins, if you are indeed taking the essentials or health pack or something else, or you are doing the reset program, when you take your morning ones and evening, and these little items here. So this is a basic guide. 50% of your plate is your low glycemic carbohydrates coming from fruits, veggies, fiber from your veggies and fruit, and also from your grains. So if you're having low glycemic grains, protein 25 to 30%, and fat 25 to 30%. Please note that on your plate doesn't mean you have to necessarily add fat to the plate. If you've got, say, a piece of salmon, it's already got its fat in there, it's already got its protein. So, you've got your veggies and your salmon. Things like if you are having, say, tofu, for example, not so high in fat, good source of protein, then you might have a dressing, a peanut oil dressing, or a sauce, or you might have some nuts or seeds in there, or something else like that. So you can add fats to it. Go for the good ones, though, of course. Um, so yeah, just now you're able to write a little more detailed, unlike in the first week. Write a little more detailed about what you're eating. And if we scroll down to the bottom, how many ounces of water or bottles or glasses, whatever you measure in, exercise level, and just take a line here to write how you felt or which meals made you feel alive. Or maybe you'll have a coding system that you can put a star by the ones that make you feel really good, and I don't know, an arrow or something else that are the ones that made you feel not so good. So that over time, you're actually going to be in a place where you know really clearly the foods that make you feel awesome, especially if you've got something, I don't know, some event or something, you're like, I really have to be on my game. I know that in the morning, if I start with a green tea and I don't know, it could be something like eggs and spinach on toast, then I'm just going to be awesome, and I'm going to be sweet. If I'm not going to be on my game and I have a cup of coffee and it makes me feel a bit tired, then I expect to, or I'll expect my bowel movements to be whatever they are, or you just get to know and understand. And everybody's different, I mean, I if I eat a piece of meat, I feel sick for days. But give me eggs on toast and some greens and some hummus, blah, feel good, really good. So understand how you are in the way that you operate. Um, we've got 10 minutes left, so I don't have any more content for you tonight. But certainly do ask me more questions if you have any more. Um, Otherwise, though, please go back and just read this info in your workbook between now and next week, and put in your figure for how much you eat per day. And if you don't eat 35 grams or 50 grams, which would be the optimum, then look where you can add things in by using some of these really good sources. Um, I think the highest I ever found in someone who'd never considered how much fiber was 25 grams or 22 grams. So it wasn't very high. Um, but you'd be amazed how easy it is to eat a lot of food and get no fiber. So a lot of foods that just is lacking, especially if you're eating processed stuff. So open to the floor now if any of you have questions. Um, can you have more than 2 probiotics a day? Absolutely, you can. When I was healing my gut, I had 3 a day, plus I was taking an inner health plus because at the time I didn't have enough of the Usana sachets. So I took, billions and billions of probiotics. Bearing in mind I was healing myself, and so I was working on balancing up the good and destroying the bad. And nowadays, I might take 1 a day, depending on how I feel, and sometimes I take 1 every other day. The dosage is 1 every other day, but you can definitely take multiples. It's better to take more than not have enough, truthfully. Yeah, absolutely. And most of the Usana products are listed as the recommended, like your foundation daily dose, and the upper limits are always quite high. So like I said, with the fish oil, you could take 20 in a day. The vitamin D, you could take 10 in a day. So certainly the probiotics, if you had it daily or a couple of times a day, would be fine. Absolutely. Thanks for the question, Sherry. Anyone else got any questions that I can help with? Absolutely. If you've got any more questions, please do email me. Also, I've got the Healthy for Life public group in Facebook. So have a look on there if you want to, if you're on Facebook and want to message me. Absolutely. What's the email? Okay, I will type that out for you all. Okay, so love life at makeitelite.com. Oops, team.com. That's the email. Healthy for Life Facebook, and also nutrientdata.com. That's for all foods. If you want to know about all foods, even food products is really, really good. Yeah, brilliant. Really good source. And if you're wanting to quickly know the glycemic index and load of a food, if you don't know it, really, really good as well. All right. Everyone, you're brilliant. Thank you for coming. And again, good luck for this week. Please, if you've also got stories to share of how your journey is going with understanding food, or if you're doing a weight loss, how that's going for you. And if you're doing a reset or a weight loss for yourself, wanting to improve, and you're not having the result, please do give me a call, because I'd love to help you out with that. Absolutely. So, it's nutrition data. Thank you, Kelly. Nutrition data. Good. Nutrition. I can't type tonight. Nutritiondata.com. Thank you so much, Kelly. Love it. Brilliant. Yeah, so do give me a call or email me here, and I'm happy to go through with you and just try and discover a solution for what might be going on with you. All right. Brilliant. Guys, you're on week 6 next week, so the final week. We're going to be delving into systemic inflammation, cellular nutrition, all the juicy good stuff that I love after talking about all this food, micro stuff. I'm going to leave you with this image again, wanting to grow my garden and looking forward to a week ahead of health. To your health and success. Have a great week, and I'll see you again soon.